Hello and welcome to Pagabo Live, a new initiative designed to promote knowledge in the public sector. My name's Tom, and over the next hour, we'll be talking about the journey towards digitisation for public sector projects with our panel of industry experts.
Hi, I'm Jacqueline Byrne, Director at HPE. We're a Legionella control provider pivoting around technology solutions.
Hello, I'm Charlie Wainwright, Head of Partnerships and Integrations at Sypro. We are a SaaS product which looks after construction contracts.
Well, thanks. Hi, everyone. I'm Karen Carter, Director of National Delivery at Pagabo. Pagabo being the company behind our wonderful Pagabo Live series. We're a national framework provider who provide procurement services into the public sector across the UK.
Brilliant, thanks all. So today's event, as the last few have been, is a Q&A session. So we're going to go through a few key talking points around how tech can help overcome some of the big challenges in public sector development, the role of contract management software, and we're also going to hear some practical examples of how this tech can work in action. We'd really love it if you as the audience can get involved in this as well. So feel free to ask as many questions as you want using the Q&A box. You'll see it at the bottom of your Zoom screen. Feel free to put as many questions in there as you'd like, and we'll hopefully get to around 10 to 15 minutes of audience Q&A at the end of the session. We're also going to be running polls, as we usually do throughout the session, just to help gauge where your knowledge level is at currently and also guide the conversation that we're having. And just on cue, there's your first poll question. How aware are you of the technological advancements that have been made for public sector buyers? You should now be able to vote in the poll. So if you could please do that, we'll give you around 30 seconds to have a go on that one, and we'll go from there. So how aware are you of what technological advancements have been made for public sector buyers? Last 10 seconds on the poll. If we could close that poll now, please. So interestingly, we've got more than half of the people down that kind of lower end of the scale of not being particularly aware of the technological advancements. Well, hopefully the next 45 minutes or so will help you with that one and hopefully build some of that knowledge that we're looking to do here today. So with that, we'll get on with our first question. I'm going to put this one to you, Karen, first, but I'll probably go to all three of you on the panel for this. What are the key changes you've noticed with regards to digitisation in procurement, contract management, and also estates management?
Cool, thanks, Tom. I think commenting more so on the procurement aspect from my side of things, we've seen some sort of step changes in that, a few sort of digital tools coming in to support procurement processes, more so when you're sort of procuring in the open market, procuring frameworks or individual projects, but not so much in terms of procuring what you then go on to procure through frameworks and different procurement solutions, shall we say. I think the procurement profession in general, we're not exactly known for being the most digitally enhanced market out there. But yeah, there's definitely room for improvement, shall we say, in what's coming through. I think the Procurement Act, the new Procurement Act 23, or albeit maybe 24, 25, is very much leaning towards digitalisation of all processes. And I think the way that is looking to be implemented doesn't really leave an option around some aspects of it, which is in one sense will be really helpful in the industry and give some standardisation of approach from a digital context. But equally, as we'll go on to probably a little bit later, causes quite a lot of challenges in the way that people are going to be presented with that and sort of mandated in a way through a process that hasn't typically been one of great success in the industry previously. But yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Karen. Charlie, we'll go to you next on this. So you're obviously very much in the contract management side with Sypro at the minute, but you've got quite a broad view of those changes that have been made across kind of the procurement space. So what's your kind of view on those key changes?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm gonna lean on the contract management side a little bit more on this question, as you've alluded to. I mean, I think for us, digitisation within public sector is very important for its progress and its future, really. I mean, I think we're looking at that, the construction playbook asking for digitisation, etc., moving forward, but we're really trying to push the benefits of that and really trying to push it on to our public sector customers for their benefit and therefore their protection of their projects overall. I mean, I think in terms of those local authorities, etc., that we work with in terms of looking after the digitization of their contract management, we found from them that they are now more compliant, they are working more efficiently, they're working more collaboratively. It's it's a real step change from potentially what it could be. Pens and papers, paper folders, projects and records lost all over the place, everything like that. We have construction contracts for a reason. It protects both parties involved in that contract. But let's not beat around the bush here. They are quite complicated things to administer. They do take a lot of time. They take a lot of effort, and there are a lot of pitfalls. So the digitization of that process really try and helps bridge that gap and keeps everyone in a safer place. I think we working with some of our customers, as I said, they have reported that up to 35% in efficiency of time of using a product such as Sypro. So with that kind of area, those are the real key changes we see: better compliance, better speed, better knowledge. It's a step forward all through digitalization from our point of view.
Thanks, Charlie. And Jacqueline, obviously you guys know from HPE, from the kind of more of the estates management side of things. What are the key changes you guys have been seeing?
We are probably very similar to Charlie. We're starting to see organisations, particularly in the public sector, really focus around what can they do smarter, what can they use technology to try and enhance their Legionella control and management. And I suppose that's why we're IoT, so the Internet of Things and sensor technology has become a key part of how estates management teams are managing. So typically, guys, it's not just Legionella control. Sensors can be used for noise, bathroom product usage, emergency lighting, space utilization. There's a whole range of sensors out there in the marketplace. I suppose specifically we have found automating compliance using IoT technology has been critical to success, and managing enhanced compliance and some of the resourcing challenges estates management teams have, a bit like Charlie, where he's talked about it's a heavy administration load around managing the number and volume and risk with Legionella control. There's a lot of tasks that need to be carried out, and sometimes by multiple different parties, whether that's internal estates teams or Legionella specialists or FM providers potentially in there. So and some of the really forward-thinking estates teams have looked at how they can integrate sensor technology for Legionella control into their BMS, for instance. So they've got all their Legionella control measures all in one holistic view of the environmental conditions and maintenance needs. So it's definitely an evolving market. Don't get me wrong. I would say we're talking about 25 to 30% of organizations are adopting it, but it's growing and it's starting to gather speed, is what I would say. I find organizations that have an innovative or creative lead that wants to consider external products, other things they can do things smarter. That's really the people we talk to. They're the leaders or the innovators in the marketplace.
Brilliant. Some really good stuff there from all three of you guys. And we're going to move on to now a very broad first part of the question. What are the key challenges the public sector is facing? How long have we got? But importantly, how can we solve them with technology? We'll go to you first in this one, Charlie.
Yeah, sure. I think, how long have we got indeed, Tom, is to answer that question. But I mean, I think some of the things which, immediately spring to mind for me regarding the challenges is, you're looking at budgets, staff shortages, recruitment freezes, all that kind of thing, where there isn't just not enough money going into the public sector, and there's not enough people behind it to administer these projects. This is where technology can really come in and help out. As I alluded to before, using something like a contract management system, you're saving time, you're potentially saving people as well. There's a lack of need to hire new people to look after projects. People can do more with the assistance of technology. And I don't want to speak for Jacqueline or Karen. I'm sure that is across the board with every bit of work they work in as well. I mean, ultimately also, as I mentioned before, we're looking at compliance and we're looking at protecting all parties across that contract. Public sector spending is, of course, very highly scrutinized, and using a SaaS platform such as Sypro means that those public sector customers are not leaving money on the table. They are protected. They know that every penny they spend is going to be used compliantly throughout that project. So therefore, it offers them that kind of barrier to going, right, well, we've not dropped the ball here. We've not missed out something. The money that is publicly funded is being spent responsibly, and it is going to a contractor who is behaving responsibly. And there's, that's that thread of information which can be carried through a digital platform such as Sypro, which proves that. So that's kind of, it's, as I say, in a nutshell, it's just trying to get things moving faster and getting more information accurately recorded, so that we can see really what's going on. And there's plenty of developments that we're doing across the Sypro platform, which, can help out on that. And I'm sure I'll probably move on to them later on in a different question in this talk, because there's loads of stuff which we can talk about. So, but for now, yeah, I'll pass on to the next person.
Yeah, that leads quite nicely into Jacqueline. Obviously, what you said in the previous answer as well about reducing that load on people and how sensors and IoT can do that. So, how do you see these problems being solved?
So I suppose what we have found that Legionella control and management is really becoming challenging for estates teams in the public sector. So typically we find that the challenges are with large portfolios, high risk environments. So they can tend to be where there's susceptible people using and visiting those buildings. And often they're multi-site, so they can be quite remote. So there's a lot of journeys and ESG issues around resourcing the tasks that need to be carried out. And I know, and Charlie's probably aware of this along with Karen, it's an aging asset portfolio that the public sector are having to manage with limited resources to fund those assets and update those assets. So what we find is using technology to help manage those multi-sites helps enhance the data. So, you're using a cloud-based platform where all the information is coming into one source, so they can make better informed decisions regarding early detection, through temperature control and water movement. So they can actually manage that asset life cycle and the risk to occupants and users of those buildings. And that's been evident in a number of contracts that we've had installed, and the power of the data that they're getting versus somebody going once a month and that information sitting in a logbook and not going any further potentially sometimes. The resources to manage the data can also prove challenging. So, estates team and movement of staff and all the challenges that we faced, where I said post-pandemic, but resourcing can be a challenge, people off sick, managing, all of those holiday leave, etc. So having that information reporting into a platform that you can trust and there's peace of mind that data is coming in, that you're not reliant on a human to carry that out. And real-time data can be really useful, I suppose, in terms of allocating funding and managing risk, longer term in an estates team. A bit like what Charlie said, cost certainty is a big piece of what we sell. So we offer, a bit like Charlie's SaaS model. So, the product is built into Pagabo's Professional Services 23 lot. And again, there's facilities there that they can manage the spend, that it's more cost efficient for them to spread that cost. But yeah, there's lots of challenges. We could go on for a while.
Karen, anything to add from your perspective?
It's a rather challenged sector, isn't it?
Just a little bit.
Yeah, we could talk all day. Yeah, I think that there's a lot of sort of echoing what Jacqueline and Charlie have said there. The main key around that being resource. I think from a procurement perspective, certainly we're seeing the skilled resource that's required for more sort of complex procurement activity, estates procurement, that really sort of skilled set of people not necessarily available or not able to really apply their skills in the right way, in the right part of their industry and their company that they're representing. So making sure that we're given the allowance for the public sector to direct their resource in the right places and make the most of that is really key. And certainly a challenge at the minute. So, what we do within Pagabo, I'm not saying we can ever, and we wouldn't want to ever move away from the humanized aspect of that. We still need people. We need people with, that sort of think skill that's applied that we can't digitize. But there's a lot of support to take the burden out of that process and make sure that people aren't tripping over themselves. They've got the data there to make the right decisions that they need to make and do what they're good at without having to spend laborious amounts of time in administration processes, and really applying their brains ultimately in what they're there to do and what they're really good at. I think some of the other challenges, I think, again, come back to the implementation of a new act. It's the biggest overhaul of public sector procurement that we've seen, and some really hefty changes within that as well. So there's the resource, the skill set that goes along with understanding that, picking it out, make sure that everyone's compliant with everything they need to be. And there really is a big emphasis on digitisation, transparency, everything that you would expect within that act. So making sure that we've got the right tools, and we're bringing the public sector along on a journey that is really easy for them to get from A to B. Ultimately, it's the big thing, and making sure that that skilled resource is used to the absolute maximum for the public sector would be key.
We will no doubt return to the Procurement Act later on at some point.
Sure.
We're asking all the big questions today. We've got the next one is how we can, as an industry, look to learn from previous experiences to be better in the future. We'll go to you first on this one, Jacqueline, but it'd be good again to hear everyone's sort of view on this one.
I had to really think about this one. I had to sit down and think about what would be important to impart here. But we started our journey around our innovation team in 2019. So you can imagine it was a fun time. And, you know, that whole R&D team and a team of experts, Legionella Control, IoT experts, developers, etc., and all the rest. And that's been really one of continuous learning. So what we find in terms of having research and development at the core of what we do, it really helps us really challenge ourselves around, you know, how do our clients procure the services or this type of service? And I suppose one of the key themes that I find was working with Pagabo. We were already on an existing framework in terms of Legionella Control, and through engagement there around, you know, what should the new framework look like? What are you doing to innovate? What have you learned from experiences? And my experience was during those times from 2019 to 2022, 2023, use of technology was the only way a lot of the clients that we were dealing with were able to get 100% compliance. People couldn't get access to buildings. There was a range of challenges that were found. And we're called a tech business. You know, so most organizations were tech, where, you know, we're trying to make sure that there's a task that's been carried out. How do you ensure that's done? So typically it's a man in a van driving to a site. So the main learnings we find is that can continue. We need to have other options out there. So I suppose that was kind of key to suppose how we've done and how we've sort of tried to educate the marketplace. We've also shared our experiences because we were early to the market with this type of technology with our peers. We've also shared it with bodies that would govern the Legionella Control marketplace. And there's also obviously a variety of authorised engineers out there that help and guide public sector and the healthcare. And we've worked closely with them to help give them some education and information around what we've learned and what they can impart to us as well. So there's always going to be learnings and new areas of challenges that the public sector are facing. So it's a continuous thing. So I suppose that in a roundabout way, it's always evolving is my answer to you in terms of, you know, learning and sharing.
Yeah, that's a very good way of putting it. It's always moving forward, isn't it?
Yeah.
Karen, just going to go to you on this one as well. So how can we look to learn and kind of improve going into the future?
Yeah, there's a few aspects to that. I think, you know, not meaning to be too not meaning to bring up too much of a emotive subject, but there's very recent sort of tragedies, the likes of Grenfell. You know, we've sort of seen the reports and things coming out of that, which, you know, if we can look to previous experiences, having complete compliance, golden threads through processes that the public sector are bringing in, you know, complete accountability in places and transparency of what that looks like and the decision making along the process is really, really key. It's probably a bit, well, it is, no, there's no probably about it. It is a very extreme example of where that didn't go so right. And the consequences of that are absolutely catastrophic. But, you know, you can see that in lots of different ways right across public sector procurement. And I think, you know, working in the industry for almost 20 years now, you see it in all sort of shapes and forms, and everyone feels that to an extent of you haven't got one point that you can refer to. You know, if you're working as a procurement, a category manager and within a local authority, you're relying on so many different data sources to do things, and some of those are better than others, and you know that you can go to a certain point and get that really reliable data, but having the ability to bring all of that together is I don't know whether anyone's actually got that perfect in the way that we would want it, to just look at one point and go, yeah, that's what I need to do. This is how we're going to move forward and make the right decisions on it. So I think, you know, looking back at some of those aspects, you think that again, there is always, it's an ever evolving beast. It's probably not where it really needs to be in terms of public sector procurement, but I think the systems where we're getting those data sets from, how we're pulling that together, is starting to look and be a lot more transparent in the processes, and making sure that we are complying with PCR regulations, we're complying with framework agreements in the way that we need to. So it's coming a long way, but long way to go still. Yeah.
And Charlie, does that tally with your perspective?
Yeah, it does very much, actually. I sort of fully agree with Karen, and I think you know, as the industry at the moment, I don't think it will learn from previous experience where it is currently. You know, we looked at Carillion, and then ISG happened. You know, it's the same things go on and on. I think until we really adopt technology and digitization, and as Karen said, get those full data sets, that golden thread, and we mold it together, and we really understand what's going on across the industry, I think we'll always be looking back and going, oh, that happened, but it happened again and happened again, because we haven't got the ability to learn off why things went wrong. It is changing, and we are adopting digital solutions more, and we are becoming a far more data-led industry, which is great to see. But we're on the start of this journey, and I think, you know, it's up to everyone in the industry to adopt and move forward, and then we can really make incremental changes based on, you know, cold hard facts rather than hearsay and opinion. So
brilliant. Well, thank you very much, guys. That's some really good kind of holistic views of where we're at as an industry. I think that's, which is really important to touch on. We'll go into some more specifics around your areas of expertise shortly, but we've now got our next poll question, which is asking which is the area you'd most like to see improved by increased digitization in your organization? Essentially, what area in your organization can digitization make the biggest difference? If I could fire up that poll now, please. So your options there: resource management, procurement processes, social value, compliance, commercial protection, risk management, and data management. And then also there's another, and when we do get an other, it'd be really nice to see in maybe the Q&A section, you could ask a question specifically about what your other requirement might be and how various platforms can help with that. Just another 10 seconds on that poll, just to give you an opportunity to all vote. And if you could close that poll now, please. So what's really interesting there is there's such an even split. I don't think we've ever had a question on Pagabo Live that's had such an even split. So essentially, I feel like there's probably an all of the above section may have also helped on that one. There's so many responses. So yeah, 33% saying resource management, 22% saying procurement processes, 28% each for social value and compliance. Just the 6% saying commercial protection, but risk management, another one that's got 39%. So if you're looking at that, a lot of those are getting more than a quarter of the responses from the audience here today. So thank you very much for your contributions to that. That's a really interesting view to be looking at. We're now going to move into, as I say, people's areas of expertise. We're going into you first, Karen. I'm going to ask about Pagabo Plus. So how is Pagabo Plus looking to digitize the procurement process?
Yeah, so I think if we've talked previously about, learning from previous experiences where the sector seems to be heading in terms of digitization, and I think Pagabo Plus is probably quite a good all-round example of all of those points. So Pagabo Plus essentially is our owned procurement platform. So it's purely used for our clients who access our frameworks and DPSs and different procurement solutions to compliantly procure through those mechanisms. So it's not out there as a portal at the moment, alongside sort of Intend and the likes, but it is used to ensure a complete compliance of a call-off procurement. So where we were talking before about sort of step change processes, we have a lot of possibly local authorities on the webinar and things like that, where they will typically have a procurement platform that's used for everything from estates. You could have a £50 million new headquarter building, right down to stationery, if you like, and everything's managed through one portal. What we're really keen to do is ensure that with all of that, we provide the mechanism as someone who chooses to procure with Pagabo, they have a wraparound SaaS product that completely encompasses their compliance, alongside other things which I'll go into as well. But there's no room to be wrong within the system. So it supports many different aspects of your procurement. And again, we would never take the human aspect out of that. We have our team there to wrap around our clients, provide additional support, resource as part of their procurement function, to really help to inform the procurement strategy of what it is that you're doing and what the outcome is that you need of that. But having that SaaS product there is really key, and it's going to be even more key for us moving forward as well. And again, moving into the Act as well, make sure that people are compliant. So our frameworks are compliant. How do we then comply with the framework agreement to get the best out of your procurement? So that's essentially in a nutshell what Pagabo Plus is there to do. However, we have a lot of different aspects that are coming into that as well. So as part of the Pagabo group, we have Pagabo, but we also have Loop, and we have Sypro, which Charlie's here representing today as well. So a big thing for us, and I think you might be actually leading on to social value, and I'm probably jumping ahead of myself here, but it's such a big aspect of the procurement process and digitising the requirement of a procurement. You know, if you come into Pagabo, you've got a new build school, for example, that's fine. We can do that. We do that a lot of times a week for different clients. So we've got that expertise we can bring into that as a procurement solution. But what else? What else do you want to get from that procurement activity? What other outcomes are possible from that? And how do we protect your outcomes that you're setting out right at the beginning of your procurement exercise, all the way through to delivery, handover, and utilisation of your asset? That's really what that system is there to do. So it's not just a transactional SaaS product that allows you to post an ITT and bring it back in and put some letters out. It's the whole encompassing wraparound of that to really support the human element of it as well. So the big thing and the big aspect of this that we're developing Pagabo Plus into is the ability to integrate with other systems. So we have Loop, we have a plugin to Pagabo Plus for Loop. So it ensures that our clients who are coming and using Pagabo, once they have a vague idea of what it is that they want to procure, what the end product would be of your £5 million school, we're putting that into the system, and it's pushing through into Loop. So we're getting national social value standard metrics for that locality of your project and the outcomes that you're looking to gain, and what is the art of the possible in terms of social value output from that investment that you're making. It's a very high level output at that point, but we use that to then bring through in a digitized fashion into the procurement process. So we're completely embedding social value into your procurement from the outset. It's not a bolt on, it's not a couple of questions that you're putting in your ITT, it's forming part of that whole entire process and wrapping that up. And so again, you've got the transparency of the decision making in the process as well. So you can see where you started aspects of social value. Thanks, Tom. Sorry, I am jumping ahead. Where you started out with your decision making around social value, how you're bringing that through your procurement process. We're ensuring through that you're completely compliant, you're quite quality price splits. We've got that helps to do your evaluation of your bids, record all of the decision making around that aspect, digitising your order forms and all the compliance aspects to make sure you've got everything in place that you need to 5 years down the line you get audited for your funding applications. That's what that gives you. You've got all of that in one place that you can pull into it. There's dashboards within there that'll show every element of spend that you have under that framework or under Pagabo as a whole, and what decision making you've taken and where the outcomes have ended up with that. The next stage of that is then to move into the likes of contract management with Sypro. So we're making sure that every aspect of your procurement, again, right from this beginning aspect, everything that you've put into it from a procurement perspective of this is everything, this is every outcome I want from this project, the commitments that you're gaining from the contractors and suppliers in bidding that project, are then making sure that we're taking that through and those commitments are maintained within the contract management element as well. So it's a complete through journey of a procurement process, right from a concept idea of I might need to procure something at some point in the distant future, right the way through to your management of the contract and beyond with risk management software as well. So yeah, that's what we're doing with Pagabo Plus. It's there, it's active on a few of our frameworks now. It'll soon be active across everything that our clients come and procure through Pagabo, which has proven to be a really, really useful tool.
Thanks, Karen. Yeah, social value obviously massive, particularly within the Pagabo ecosystem.
Absolutely.
I think it's just over 6 billion, isn't it? That's been enabled by social value, been enabled by Pagabo over the years. So really quite a significant part of what Pagabo is all about.
Absolutely. And I think that the way that we're sort of moulding this system is to have those two, they are two companies under the Pagabo group, Pagabo and Loop. But the importance of social value and our passion behind that really comes through in the development of our SaaS model. The clients who come and procure with Pagabo, we offer free social value tracking through Loop. So it's given that commitment that we have that emphasis on our supply chain through every single procurement vehicle that we have. And we want our clients to benefit from that. It's no good really just having it at a framework level of, what commitments are you going to make in terms of social value, and then not actually mapping that into every single call off that's made under the framework. And really, to do that in the best possible way, you need a digitized solution for it. And as I said, that's the commitment that we're making. So that whole system is taking you through from your procurement journey into social value, and there's no surprise charges along the way.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much, Karen. That's really, really comprehensive view of Pagabo Plus and the benefits it can deliver. So we're kind of rattling through these questions. There's still time for you to get yours in. So if you use the Q&A function at the bottom of the screen, hopefully we'll have some time at the end for us to run through any audience questions that we get in. But before we move on to the next section, we'll go on to the next poll. We won't give any prizes for guessing what the next section is about, but the question is, do you use contract management software to manage your project? A simple yes and no. If you can open the poll now, please. I'll keep that one nice and short because I don't think there's going to be too much to think about there. Do you use contract management software to manage your projects? A simple yes or no response, please, on the screen now. And yeah, if you could close that poll, please. Wow, pretty much 50-50 there then. So 53% saying yes, 47% saying no. We'll move on to the next question, which is around contract management and Sypro. Charlie, 50-50 there. So this is the time to convince the other 50% that they need contract management software. So how is Sypro digitizing public sector projects?
Yeah, well, firstly, I think thanks for the question. So I think firstly, the 50-50 split is that's probably the highest actually we've had in a while, with a lot
very encouraging
in terms of actually people who do use contract management software. Yeah, and I think our biggest competitor by a country mile is Excel, where people manage their contracts through that, and the pitfalls that people can fall into doing that. You're running a project, you're suddenly onto your 700th compensation event, and I'm not exaggerating there. We've got clients who have gone through more in projects. How are you managing all of those through Excel? I do not know, but this is where we can come in and really help you out. So I mean, yeah, Sypro and the public sector. Well, we've been intertwined for the past 15 years, really. We've worked with over 100 local authorities, hundreds and hundreds of projects running through with them, over 200 NHS trusts. We embed ourselves in major public sector spending projects, and we have done for the past, as I say, 15 years. Through education of compliance of the contract and everything like that, through one of our founders, Dr. Stuart Kings, we're trying to push this envelope of getting your contract management more digital and therefore more compliant. I think ultimately what we're looking at when we speak to some of our public sector clients is we try to understand from them what their needs are and what they're wanting out of the use of Sypro, and we have developed the product with them in that mind. And I think the stark reality is that spending is tight, budgets are tight, all that kind of stuff, and it's you look at contract management and you think, right, well, can we fork out the additional X pounds per month for the subscription to use Sypro, or should we just try and not want to say wing it, but should we just try and do it without using a platform? Often, and through no fault of the people who work in the public sector or anything like that, budgets often mean that they do have to take that risk, which is a bit of a shame. So therefore, we find we've been far more prominent on those larger scale projects. We do tons of work with NHP and all that sort of stuff where you're talking millions and millions of pounds going through, and it's like, right, well, these are big risks, but actually it is the smaller projects which are often the most risky. It is those, £500,000 project which suddenly doubles in cost because of one little mistake and things like that. This is where digitization of that contract management system can really come into play. So, our biggest fans, and it goes quite obviously, are those which have that license where they can use it across all their projects, and it's not going through the procurement process project by project. Those people who are just going, right, we're using Sypro, it's embedded. We've standardized our contract management and administration. We've now got all of our team trained up on how to use it, and therefore we know exactly what we're getting out the other side of it. So that kind of standardization of process where contracts so rapidly, can be altered and changed and things which we can cope with, left, right, and center. It's more about, it's the management side, which we know exactly what's going on. There was a bit of work, and again, it's down to that kind of protecting the investment for the public sector. There's a bit of work done by King's College London a couple of years ago regarding contract administration and disputes. And the most common reason for a dispute, and therefore potential lack or loss of serious money following a project, was through poor contract admin. So this is where we really stand in trying to protect public spending, protect public projects. It means that those investments are looked after, but also, I think quite crucially, as I say, we don't want another Carillion, we don't want another ISG. It looks after the contractor as well. It helps collaboration, gets everyone working together, which is what we want from a public sector project. We don't want, the public sector don't want to be taking the industry for a ride. They just want the best results. They want, as I say, the social value. They want, the local opportunities, that kind of thing. They want to be supporting the construction industry, which is no small industry, as I'm sure you're all aware. So we see ourselves as having a small part to play in that. The contract it's not a particularly sexy topic, is it? It's kind of, it's got to be done though. But yeah, we can hopefully help with that administration of it, and therefore it's one less thing to worry about. Although you're always going to worry about things, but it's one less thing to massively worry about and get to the end of a job and think, oh God, where did all these extra costs come from? Who's liable for this? Who's accountable for that? It's all sorted. So
at that point, it becomes, can you afford not to have had it? So
exactly, yeah, exactly.
Brilliant. So we're just moving on to the next question with you as well. So how does that kind of look in terms of making, better data informed decisions?
Yeah, well, this is, I think we all three of us have touched upon, I think, through this conversation, it's this better collection and administration of data. As I say, as an industry, I don't think we'll move forward very quickly without, that high grade analysis of data that we're collecting and, making those data informed decisions. And so this is something we've looked at in Sypro and seen where we can help out, and we're trying to move our model very much from project to project, because it doesn't help local authorities in terms of their procurement processes and everything like that. But we are trying to make Sypro more of an everyday tool which you can look at and learn from. So we've got an open API, it connects into Power BI and everything like that. So a local authority who use Sypro, and this has actually been driven by one of our customers, Suffolk County Council have been very much involved with us from the start with this. They now have that Power BI dashboard where they can look at their entire portfolio of projects and their contracts. They can see how they're performing across the board, the different types of work they're doing, and then the effect of the contracts throughout. So they can then make better decisions moving forward. So their next investment, the next, bit of work they need to do, they can look back and see the real facts of what's happened and gone, right, well, this went well. This is we made good decisions here. We made bad decisions here. This particular risk is regularly occurring. How can we eliminate it from the start? How can we stop this delay? How can we do that? Without that kind of information collection, without it being presented in such a way which is readable, as I said before, we'll never learn from our mistakes that way. It'll always be, oh, well, hopefully it just doesn't happen next time. But we can really start anticipating these errors now and making those better data-informed decisions.
Thanks, Charlie. And thank you both, you and Karen, for your responses so far. We're getting towards the end of those pre-submitted questions. Now we've got time for one more section, though, before we go into our Q&A. Again, nudge to get your questions in if you'd like to send any through for us to address in the Q&A section at the end. But to wrap up our kind of Pre-planned questions for today. We've got an audience poll on whether you've considered remote technologies for the management of Legionella control within your estate. So we can fire up that poll now, please. Again, another yes or no question. Have you considered remote technologies for the management of Legionella control within your estate? Give you another 10 seconds to answer that one. Brilliant. So if we could close that poll now, please. Do we get another 50-50? So actually we're more of an 80-20 split towards the no there. So but the next section will certainly be quite interesting to hear from Jacqueline on this. So Jacqueline, how is HPE digitising public sector from an estates management perspective?
I think, I suppose what I decided to do today was really talk you through the journey that we've been on, and that poll really tells you, you know, most organisations, they stick with the routine that they have, the supplier that's been doing it for many years, or the FM or their estates guys doing all of the key tasks to manage the risk. And sometimes something bad has to happen, or you've limited resources, or there's some other key influences that are environmental or whatever, you know, have impacted on why you make the change or why you need to change it. And I thought today I'd just give you a bit of a tour of the journey we've been on as an organisation and how we have worked around what we could do as an organisation to help innovate this marketplace. And so I suppose just to start off, what, you know, who we are and where we've came from. We started as an organisation, so I'm a director and a shareholder in the business, and we are in business since 2001, so something like 23 years or whatever that is now. I obviously do look older than what I should be, but anyway, it's been a long 23 years. And we've been obviously a control provider, working with many frameworks, lots of different types of organisations throughout Ireland and the UK. But we saw the IoT market evolving around 2012. And we investigated sensor technology then, but we looked at the cost and the commercials and how effective that might be for organisations, and it just didn't stack up. So the cost of implementing the technology solution back in 2012 versus what it was costing to deliver it in a manual fashion, it wasn't going to be a runner. So we parked it then, and then we decided in 2019 that we really wanted to start to look at what else is out there, what other technologies, how has things evolved in terms of data communication, the sensor market, etc. So that's how we sort of started that journey back in 2019. And that was the creation of an innovation team, and it was made up of, you know, our Legionella technical experts, IoT specialists, our cloud-based development teams. We had already developed our own digital platform for managing all of the Legionella tasks, and that was proven really beneficial for us as an organisation in managing the workloads, but also for the client in terms of the data they were getting and interpreting and making informed decisions and managing compliance, I suppose, is really what the key part to that was. So we started to test and market and look at different prototypes of a remote temperature monitoring sensor. And basically, for those that are not familiar with Legionella control, the guidance stipulates that you take temperatures on a monthly basis at key points within a building. And that's looking at the hot source and the cold source in very simple terms. And what we wanted to do was to remove the requirement for a man in a van to drive potentially many miles, or, you know, sometimes a large building estate and capture those temperatures, and sometimes record that in a hard copy logbook, or there may be a digital system at that stage. So during that innovation project, we chose 10 early adopters to test our product in the marketplace. And those clients came from a variety of backgrounds, so government, education, pharma, local councils, healthcare, the range. We decided to select a number of them. And they were great. They were, we would call the guinea pigs. They were happy to look at this technology, give us feedback, that whole sort of learning experience, which was really good. And also we were changing the data they were having to manage, a bit like what Charlie's talked about. You know, Excel is his main competitor. You know, how do you manage lots and lots and lots of data in a more efficient way? So we were going from 1 temperature per month to 2 temperatures per day. So that was increased data, fantastic information, but there was a little data fatigue. We needed to look at how we could use our platforms and develop a layer of artificial intelligence to interpret that data, to take away the resource workload of interpreting information on temperatures and interpret it with a RAG. Is it compliant or is it not? So it was giving clients really good information sent to the right person at the right time with reports and alerts. So that was really, really beneficial. We saw the clients really embracing it. Don't get me wrong, we had We had some of that data fatigue challenges. There was lots of, good feedback as part of that process. But during that time, obviously, we were in the pandemic, and a lot of buildings were being occupied, as you all know. There was, working from home. There was major issues around water being turned over in a building, and that can cause Legionella to grow, as we all know. So at that stage, we took back to the innovation team. What else could we do to innovate and look at tasks to help that movement of water in a building? So we went back to the drawing board and we looked at, what technically can we do to remotely flush outlets? And it was becoming a really cumbersome task. And if you can imagine, guys, there was engineers, maintenance staff walking around, and all they were doing all day was flushing outlets. The most monotonous task. I don't know if I could do it myself. I think I'd have to listen to lots of podcasts, but it was a challenging job. And also, in some instances, the public sector were paying, a labour fee to do that, significantly more than what the job was skilled to do. Let's be honest about it. So it was costing a lot of money, and it was really becoming a major issue within organisations. And were they doing the job to the standard that they were required? Or were they ticking a sheet? So there was a lot of trust issues there around the product. So we developed our HV24 flow unit. And again, all of our products don't need to access the client's Wi-Fi or their IT systems. They report directly through an independent network. And that's been really useful. That was another key part of our innovation team. We wanted a route to market that didn't create major challenges or sign off by the public sector. They had to go through layers of red tape to get our product installed. So the data and the interpretation is probably what the client wants. Once the devices are installed, we're monitoring, we're making sure we're checking the battery life, we're making sure that they're communicating. All of that's done by our IoT support team. But the data is really what the client wants to see. What can they use to make more efficient decisions, manage Legionella control more efficiently and effectively, and make decisions quickly around Legionella growth in a building. So that's where our interface and I suppose our own in-house development team have worked a bit like what Charlie said. You develop systems to be more what the client wants to see, what the reports they need to see, how are they reporting to the board. So we've been able to develop some KPI dashboards and reporting that the clients then can pull off very simply and report around compliance across their portfolio. The one key learning that we found, and I suppose it maybe leans into what Karen's talked about around social value and ESG and, what we're trying to do, as an organisation to support our clients within the public sector. So with removing the task to take a temperature on a monthly basis, typically you're on a tap for 2 to 3 minutes to take that temperature. Would you believe that removes 432 litres per asset per annum that you're flushing or purging down the sink? So it has been a game changer for a lot of my clients, because the influencing or the business case that goes to the board to sign off this type of technology, sometimes the ESG has been the major player. One key client in the security environment, they have saved over 5 years 2.1 million litres of water with removing that manual task and the sensors being installed. And that's been powerful. That's a really, really good story to tell. It doesn't, massively change what they do in terms of a major target, but it contributes to some of the targets that they're trying to look at. So some of the key themes that I found is, organizations have a lot of hoops to cover when they're trying to look at new technology or new systems or, new ways of doing things. And I suppose I've been through so many of these challenges with, security clients, FMG clients, and at the minute, like I wouldn't tell you the hoops we had to go through. It's been rolled out through every Marks and Spencer's here at the UK and Ireland. There's a lot that we've been through and a lot that we've learned around. Every frequently asked question that I could think of has been thrown at me over what does it do this? Does it do that? Can it do that? What happens if this happens? There's lots of different solutions there. A kind of key theme that I found that really is, I suppose I would call our major benefit to the customers, is that it's reducing risk. It's increasing Legionella compliance. It's giving them cost certainty because we have a SaaS model and a CapEx model if the client so wishes, and they're always audit ready. The information is there. It's real-time reporting. The information is powerful for them to make decisions. So in a nutshell, it's a product that's going to evolve again, and we may look at another. We're being challenged at the moment to look at emergency lighting sensors. And that's moving us outside our comfort zone. We're Legionella experts. That's what we live and breathe. That's our bread and butter. But yeah, the FM world out there, you know, want to save money and do things more efficiently. So our HB24 family of products will evolve as time goes on. So I suppose we're in a fortunate position. We own the product from manufacturing right through to the reporting and the platform, the support and the install process, etc. So in that respect, we can control our costs. I suppose if we really, I mean, you've just put the slide up there. It's a specific project that I could talk about, and I suppose this is one that's probably close to my heart. It's a local council that's quite close to our headquarters here in Northern Ireland. You can tell my Northern Ireland accent. And this particular customer were challenged around access to sports pavilions, you know, properties that are, you know, not easily accessible. They were struggling with getting their compliance up to speed, making sure that visits were being carried out. And they wanted to look at a technology solution, but they didn't have the skills within their procurement team to go off and write a specification, go out to public tender, etc. So at that time, they were familiar with our products, and we had already installed it in a number of other local councils here in Northern Ireland. And they had seen I suppose, the benefits those customers were gaining from it. So we introduced them to Pagabo, and they had already had some form of relation with Pagabo through the local account manager for Scotland and Northern Ireland in another procurement exercise that we're doing. So I suppose that was kind of good. They already knew of Pagabo and the opportunities there. So through our professional services lot number 23, we were able to procure a 3-year contract for them, write a very bespoke SLA that was a partnership collaborative approach between the council and ourselves around our solution and how that would work and all of the key, you know, maintenance and T's and C's and all of that good stuff. And I had my first pre-start meeting with the customer last week, and they were just so delighted at how easy it was. And I'm not used to hearing those comments from the client. They were just so happy because they said they had an order form to fill out. They engaged with us around an SLA. We were happy to give them lots of information. We tweaked it to meet the needs of both organisations. And now we sign contracts, and it's been a really good process for both of us. So they said to me they're more than happy to give a reference, you know, around the process with Pagabo, but also around what we're going to be doing with them in terms of our technology and how we have helped shape them around their compliance and the efficiencies it's going to bring to them and the costings. So that's been a really good success story, and I'm hoping I'm going to have more of them with Pagabo through professional services lot. Yeah, so I suppose that's me in a nutshell.
Thanks, Jackie. A resounding testimony for Pagabo there, if nothing else.
It was really good. Like,
Keep them coming.
Promise that we didn't pay you to say that.
No, they really like. I mean, that was just recent feedback.
Excellent stuff. So we come to the end of the wider Q&A section of the webinar. If you could just fire up this final poll for us, please. It's how aware now are you of the technological advancements that have been made between public sector buyers? So nice little gauge of whether your knowledge has grown over the last 50 minutes or so. So how aware are you now of what technological advancements have been made for public sector buyers? And if we could close that poll now, please. Excellent. So a lot of progress being made there. We had 55% of people were below in that sort of 1 or that 1 and 2 section now. And we've now got, what's that, quick maths, we've got 84% there now above in that kind of towards that very aware section. So that's really good and good work from the panel today, from showing their expanding their public sector knowledge. We've got time for just maybe 1 or 2 questions, and I'll go to you first with this one, Charlie, just because it's something that you alluded to and something that I've noticed about the construction industry in my years working in it. We've mentioned today COVID, Grenfell, Carillion, ISG, all major seismic events, but it seems that it always seems to take a seismic event to push innovation in the construction industry. Why is it that the industry is typically so slow in just adapting at the pace that other industries would naturally do, and it almost kind of needs these seismic massive events to kind of kick that innovation, give it a bit of a rocket, really?
Yeah, I think I'm conscious we only got 5 minutes here, so
yeah, it was a bit of a start of a 1,000 word It should be
No,
especially
I think you're right. And you know, there's obviously COVID was, you know, it's, you could argue it's predictive, but it wasn't really. And I think, you know, the industry responded very well to it. I think, you know, we were probably one of the first to get our act together, get back on site and work through it. As I say, in terms of kind of the lack of, I don't think it's a lack of drive, but there's probably just a lack of money going about to be looking at innovation and trying to move things forward. Added to the fact that, you know, we are struggling to attract new skills as well. We're not getting a lot of fresh thinkers coming in. You know, those we know for sure that the best engineers get taken in by banks immediately because they're good at doing sums. We know that, you know, anyone with that kind of innovation, they're off to work for Google, they're off to work for Amazon, that kind of thing. So, you know, we are not getting the new ideas coming in, and we've got quite an aging workforce within the industry. So therefore it is, you know, well, we've always done it this way mentality. I think, you know, there are seeds of change, definitely. And, you know, we can see it within the groups that we work in, like what Jack and HP are doing. There is, you know, technology is pushing its way forward and we are catching up. But ultimately, I think there is such a risk in construction of changing what you do. You know, you do a couple of, you know, a major contractor will only have X many projects on the go at some time, and they are of huge value. So if it goes wrong because you've tried something new, that's goodbye. You know, you can't take a huge risk and do something completely different. So we're looking at incremental changes. We're looking at the small changes and stuff, because you can't just turn the whole construction process up in its head and hope for the best without it being tested. So does that stifle us a little bit? It probably does, but it's for very, you know, reasonable reasons. Effectively, you know, we need to have some sort of epiphany moment maybe coming in and going, right, well, we can do this differently and it's going to absolutely work before anyone tries it. Otherwise, we just have to adapt to situations such as COVID and such as Grenfell, which, you know, we don't want to be doing, but it's survival rather than thriving.
So that's a very succinct summary there, and kind of tied with what I've experienced in my sort of decade in the industry as well. But good to hear it being affirmed elsewhere. So unfortunately, that is all we've got time for today. But thank you all very much for tuning in. So by registering and joining today, you've all become part of the Pagabo Live community. So that will mean that you'll automatically receive an invite and a link to our next session, which will be in November, details of which are on the screen right now. And you'll see it's going to be a budget special, looking at how Rachel Reeve's first financial statement may affect the public sector, and I imagine the construction industry as a whole as well. There's also going to be a newsletter coming out around a week after every Pagabo Live session. And that will include a recording of the webinar in video and podcast form, along with further insights from the team. You can also find it on the likes of Spotify and wherever you get your podcasts as well. So well worth a listen back if you didn't manage to catch all of today's session. Hopefully you've enjoyed everything and found it useful. If so, please tell a colleague, tell a friend, and we'll like to see you next month for our next session. Thank you.